Hello and welcome back to another video here on the Mattov'S FM channel, and welcome to another different type of video. Today it's the first time we're going to be stepping into the world of MMA here on the Mattov'S FM channel, where we have got the top 20, my personal top 20 UFC list of all time. Now I say that obviously it is a UFC list. The UFC does not capture all MMA. There's no Fedor in here. It's probably the most notable person who definitely could have made this top 20, but for the sake of the whole kind of video, you know, just getting all of MMA in just so I can get Fedor in doesn't make much sense. Before we obviously get into the list, this is my own personal opinion. I'd like to think it's a pretty informed list, but who knows? We'll have to see really if it is. Let me know down below what you think of the predictions, and make sure to go and join the Discord down below, the top link in the description, because when the events are on, we've got some kind of, I don't know how you describe it really, commentary, the community getting involved in there, and it would be nice to get a few more in there if you do go on to enjoy this video. So before we go into the actual list, there is probably a few names who you won't see in this list, some honourable mentions, the likes of Dominic Cruz, who was very, very close to getting into this list, probably the kind of biggest person, I guess, to not get in. You'll probably see why very, very shortly. Alex Pereira, quite close, but I still think you might have to do a little bit more to get in here. Chris Cyborg, and we had Ronda Rousey, who didn't make this list. There's quite a few things to be said with them. I'm not going to go into it why they're not in the list. I think there's more reasons why they're not than why they should be. So I think that it explains itself as to why they're not in there. And then there's some others as well. BJ Penn, Randy Couture, who's not in there. Chuck Liddell, who could have made it. There's some other guys, Aljamain Sterling, just different guys like that. Justin Gaethje, who could have made this list but didn't in the end. Top 20, I think 20 is a pretty reasonable number to go with for this video, and we're going to go and get straight into it. Make sure to stick around for the whole video. There might be some surprising picks, and most importantly, you need to see who I've gone for as the GOAT of the UFC and of mixed martial arts 100% by the end of the video. At number 20, the first spot here on the list, I've gone for Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Now this video has been recorded a few days after UFC 318, the last dance in New Orleans, and that was where Dustin Poirier went out with a bang. What a fight it was for the BMF bout against Max Holloway. He was unable to get the result in that fight, but I don't think he can be too disappointed with that. The greatest to never do it, they say. I mean, personally, my opinion on interim champs is that you are the best in the world at that moment, because the actual defending champ cannot fight or is not fighting, so that means the interim champ is the best in that division at the moment. So he wasn't undisputed, he was still disputed his title status, but you know, he has, I think I saw a stat the other day that was like he has more wins over former champions than the whole of the I think it was welterweight, or it might have been middleweight division, has against champions above like middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight. Those guys don't have as many wins as Dustin does against champions. He probably has more wins, I think he should anyway. He has wins over so many champions. Absolutely incredible fighter, and I think it makes sense to put him in at number 20 with all those wins that he has. An absolute crazy fighter, fan favourite. Some of the fights he had, absolute classics. You know, he beat so many great fighters. You know, Conor McGregor twice. He beat Max Holloway twice, obviously losing this time around. He fought 3 title fights and obviously won that interim bout against Max Holloway, and it was just he couldn't pull it off on the nights when he needed to, but I think he is still one of the greats of the game and gets in at number 20. In at number 19, I've gone with Merab Dvalishvili. Now, as I said before, Dominic Cruz is very unlucky to miss out on this list. I think Merab does get in. The reason for that is, I think his actual run before, his title run is what people will call it, his run to the title was absolutely incredible. So many elite wins. In the way his style of fighting is not obviously the best on the eye, but he is a very dominant fighter and it can't be denied. And I don't want this list to be one where we go and pick fighters because of what they'll go on to do in the future, but I think that Merab is definitely a fighter that, you know, Corey Sandhagen coming up next for him. There's so many, if he gets the Umar rematch, there's so many prospects who are coming up in that division, and I think they'll have such a tough test when they come up against Merab. I think it makes sense to have him in a number 19 in this list, and he has all the potential to go on and climb up into the ranks above him. In at number 18, I've gone with Charles do Bronx Oliveira. He comes in, and what a career this guy's had, man. He's been absolutely incredible. The most finishes, the most submissions in UFC history. His title run was so unique. I don't know if there's like a stat, but I'd like to think he has the stat for like most fights but for a title fight. I think it's like 26 or something like that. Absolutely incredible fighter. You know, he had, what was it, 3 title or 2 title defenses. Obviously you say what you think about the Justin Gaethje fight, but I do think that would go down, he should go down as a title defense, because the scales was apparently not his fault, but I guess we'll never know. Absolutely elite fighter, so many good wins, and I think, you know, he definitely deserves his place in this list. It might have been rough quite recently for him, and he might have had a rough time against the fighter just above him in this list, but number 18 on this list is very, very solid for him. In at number 17, you will have heard just then, it's Ilia Topuria. What a fighter this guy is, man. He's absolute freak of nature. His knockout power, absolutely incredible. Now, but if you were one of those guys who thought that Charles was going to win in the fight at UFC 317, you were not the only guy, and you were not too wrong to think that. But maybe in hindsight, we were a little bit. I also thought Charles could get the win, but Ilia, he's a unstoppable force, is the way to describe him. I think he does need a few more wins to go and start to move up in this list. I think a few people, from what I've seen recently, have him a lot higher, but I do think it makes sense to have him in this position. You know, 3 back-to-back elite wins, and if he gets a few more, who knows how far he can go. He has probably the second most potential on this list to become the GOAT of the UFC, and I think number 17 is a very good spot for him. Very interesting fight, should be coming up personally, I think, against Arman Sarukian at the end of the year. That's who I think is most deserving for the title shot, and hopefully he can go and have another good performance there, but I do think Arman will be his toughest test. In at number 16, I've gone for Valentina Shevchenko. Quite a few people probably wouldn't have her in this list at all, but I think it would be very silly not to. You know, what a fighter. 9 consecutive title defenses, I believe it was. Obviously she met her match in Alexa Grasso, got the belt back, and now she defended against Manon Fiorot, which was a very, very good performance. An absolutely incredible fighter, so dominating, flyweight GOAT, undisputed, and she'll have hopefully a very interesting fight against Zhongwei Li, which I think will be a tough test for her. Obviously she is getting into the later years of her career, but I do think it will be a very interesting fight against Zhongwei Li, and if she can do that, who knows, she may have an argument for the GOAT of women's MMA. Who knows? But Valentina Shevchenko in at number 16, and those are your first 5 fighters on the list there. If we go to the next side of the fighters, we're in at number 15 to number 11. In at number 15, I've gone for Matt Hughes. A lot of people would not put this guy or even remember about this guy, but I think he definitely has to be in here. You know, this guy, so many title defenses. I think he had like 5 or 6 title defenses. Obviously he's from previous era, and a lot of the arguments are that the competition then was not that good, but pound for pound, this list factors in pound for pound skill, whilst also their achievements in the UFC. A lot of defenses for this guy, and I think it makes sense to put him in. One of the, you know, he obviously beat Georges St-Pierre, was avenged by him, but this guy had a very, very good career, and it makes sense to put him in at number 15. In at number 14, I've gone for Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman. What a run this guy had. 5 consecutive wins, 5 title defenses. Obviously beat Tyron Woodley, and then got quite a few wins before he had a rough start, or rough ending I should say, not rough start. He did have a very interesting start to life in the UFC as well, but he did manage to get up into the title fights. Very, very good performance performances, pound for pound #1 fighter. I think his wins, some of them they could have been, I don't know what's the way to describe it really, but his wins, I don't want to say they're not that good. His actual performances in the wins were good, but I feel like the competition at the time was not maybe the best, but he was a very dominating fighter, and I think he goes into number 14. There is a fighter above him who had a very similar career in terms of his title run and how he was, and I think the reason he is at number 14 and not 13 is just because of competition alone. But Kamaru Usman, a very, very good fighter on his day, and I think as well the thing that gets him in this position into number 14 is his performance recently against Joachim Buckley, to win in such a way when a lot of people were writing him off. I would have thought Buckley was going to win that fight, but you can't write off this guy. Might just be back into the title picture, and hopefully he can have one more title run before the end of his career. So number 14, Kamaru Usman. His good friend Israel Adesanya gets in at number 13. I mean, these guys had very kind of similar title runs. They had 5 title defenses each. The difference was, I guess, that Israel Adesanya was a 2-time champion, and he also had, I would like to say, better competition. He had wins like Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vittori, and it was Paulo Costa as well. But he obviously won his title back in such incredible fashion against Alex Pereira. He's had so many good wins. I mean, even before he fought for the title in Anderson Silva, so many good wins to get to that position. Calvin Gastelum, one of the greatest fights the UFC has ever seen. It's a shame to see really what has happened to him, the decline in his career, obviously losing to Sean Strickland. He lost to Nusudin Imavov in his most recent fight, and in that title fight against the current middleweight champion Indricus du Plessis, was submitted in that fight. It's a shame. It definitely is a shame, but we'll have to see really what happens with his career. But he is definitely cemented in history, and I think that spot just outside the top 10 is very, very reasonable for him. In at number 12, I've gone for Max Holloway. A lot of people would have this guy a lot higher. They say he has the best resume in UFC history. He is a very, very he's had a very, very good career. I still think, I don't want to, as I said with Marab, I don't want to say with this list it's the potential as to where they go, but it can't be denied he does still have a little bit more in the locker. He is still only 33 years of age, if I'm not mistaken. Former featherweight champion with quite a few title defenses, and the BMF champion. Obviously had a very good performance against Dustin Poirier, and you know, he had a good performance, but can he get into that title picture? Would he win the rematch against Ilya? I mean, at 155 it is a different a kind of different story, but I do want to say that Max could potentially have a better performance. He definitely had a good performance against Ilya in that fight at featherweight, but I just think Ilya is too good at the moment, and if he can win that fight, he would definitely move a lot higher in this list. But I do think that number 12 is the fair argument for him at the moment. In at number 11, before we get to the top 10, the halfway stage, Stipe Miocic gets in that position. The heavyweight GOAT, absolutely incredible fighter. He was a trailblazer is probably the way to describe Stipe. You know, very athletic, kind of technical fighter, and it's not something you tend to see with the heavyweights. But he had a very, very good career. So many title defenses, which is rare to see really at heavyweight. He obviously beat a lot of the greats. He beat Francis Ngannou, Daniel Cormier. Obviously his most recent fight might not have gone the way he wanted to, but to get in at 42 years of age and still push, I mean, it wasn't obviously his best fight, but still push John Jones in the way that he did. This guy deserves his place and all his flowers in at number 11. That is the top 20 to 11. Now it's time to get to the top 10, where we start to get to those single figures. But before we do that, we get to the number 10 spot. Amanda Nunes gets in there. What a fighter, and it's so exciting to see that she will be returning to face Kayla Harrison, and if she can go and do that, who knows how far she can get out of this list. She was an incredible fighter, and her return will be something special. Can she beat Kayla Harrison? I think it will be a very, very close fight. Obviously that sharpness will have gone a little bit, and with the age for Amanda Nunes, Lopez, but a very incredible fighter. Whoever the UFC threw at her, she beat all of them. You know, Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey. She may have lost to Juliana Pena, but then went and avenged her in very, very good fashion. And she was a very, very incredible fighter who hopefully can go on and put a very good performance against Kayla Harrison for that bantamweight fight. Might even be at featherweight if they go and reopen that division, but she was a featherweight and bantamweight champion and the undisputed, I'd like to say, women's MMA GOAT. People would argue otherwise, but she fought at the top level for so many years in incredible fashion, so many defenses, and I think she is the undisputed women's MMA GOAT at number 10. In at number 9, I've gone for Khabib Nurmagomedov. A lot of people, it's a very mixed opinion with this guy. I think personally, he is very disrespected. A lot of people I hear put him a lot lower than I hear put him higher. I feel like he should get in at higher but in this list, but I think his rank is very, very good. I think he would have got higher if he had more wins. That can't be denied that he didn't really have enough wins. Could he have carried on and got a few more? I think he could have. Could he have moved up? I mean, you could make the argument that he was ducking Kamaru Usman. I think he could have. He was a little bit of a weight bullet, and I think he could have moved up to fight Usman. But he knows if he would have won or lost that. I think he was very clever in some of his matchmaking. But I think his 3 title defenses, it was against McGregor, Gaethje and Poirier, and then his wins before that could have been a little bit better, but this guy was so dominating, never bled, never really lost a round, only lost a few rounds here and there, but he was an absolute dominating force. Could have been higher in this list, but I think this guy deserves his credit. Not enough people give him his credit, and he was a very, very good fighter who gets his spot in at number 9 on this list. Number 8, I've gone for Jose Aldo. What a guy, man. What a guy. He had such a great career, and people really, really forget about how good this guy was, with his recent time in the UFC. Obviously, that infamous knockout against Jose Aldo, but this guy defended so many times. He was unbeaten for 10 years, and people really do forget how good this guy was. So number 8, that sums it well for Jose Aldo. A good spot for him, and one of the greatest featherweights of all time. In at number 7, I've gone for Daniel DC Cormier, light heavyweight champion, heavyweight champion. I think he had some incredible performances, an absolutely dominating fight. Who knows how it would have gone against John Jones? I mean, I'm not one to say what if is the statement that they would use, but this guy had so many elite wins in a light heavyweight, but also at heavyweight as well. Obviously, he was the first guy to become light heavyweight, or he wasn't actually, but I think he was the first guy to defend in both divisions, or something like that. That was definitely a stat that is unique to him. A very, very good fight. Could have been even a little bit higher in this list, but I think he had some incredible wins, and he deserves his place in at number 7. And then at number 6, I've gone for Alexander the Great Volkanovski. This guy has had so many good wins, and he's become the 2-time featherweight champion with 35 or 36 even years of age, I believe it is. Correct me if I've got that wrong. I don't want to make him any older than he is, but to get that win against Diego Lopez, to get that belt back in what was very good fashion. He may have got dropped. His chin may not be there anymore as it once was, obviously coming off the back of 2 knockout losses. It was always going to be tough to regain that chin, and he did get dropped in that fight, but this guy has got so many elite wins. For a very good fight against Islam Makhachev as well, who you've not seen already in this list, and who knows where he is in the remainder of this list. He's an incredible fighter, and who knows how much more he's got in him. He's obviously going to be fighting, well, it's not obvious actually, but I would like to say before the end of his career, Movsar Evloev, who is looking like a very good competitor for him. Potentially another rematch with Yair. I don't know about that one really. He may fight Jean Silva as well, which could be an interesting one. Jean Silva is fighting Diego Lopez. Personally, I think Diego will win that fight. A lot of people not giving him his credit. He had an absolutely incredible fight with Volkanovski, but Volkanovski just outclassed him on the day. Hence the reason why he gets in at number 6, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters of all time, and deserves his spot in at number 6. Now it's time for the top 5 spots. There's 5 fighters who you will be able to figure out probably who they are, who have not made this list already. And I think this part is probably the most controversial set of fighters that we've seen so far in the video. But I think it's definitely backing it up, the opinions. I think it's a very reasonable list, all in all. So in at number 5, I've gone for Islam Makhachev. This guy, he's an absolute force of nature. I think he's going to become. He has the most potential. I said he was Ilya. He has the most potential to go and become the GOAT at the moment. He's still only 34 years of age, I believe it is. How many more fights he has in him, we don't really know, but he has so many good wins already. People try to downplay some of his wins, but I think he has been absolutely incredible in some of those performances. He had the Charles Oliveira fight, disposed of him very quickly, 2 wins against Volkanovski. These guys may only be featherweight, but he has still beat them, and they've come to challenge him, and he's beat them in a very, very good fashion. Dustin Poirier as well, and Renato Moicano most recently. Should have been. Oh man, it's very, very disappointing really that we never got that fight, because that would have been an incredible rematch. But Renato Moicano, he is a good fighter. People can't deny that he is a good fighter. He was formerly a top 5 featherweight and a top 10 lightweight as well, and he disposed of him within 3-4 minutes. Very, very good performance against the guy there. And now he will be fighting Jack Della Maddalena for the title. I see a lot of people say that he's going to have a tough fight. I think it will be an interesting fight, to say the least, against Jack Della Maddalena, but I think he will outclass him in the end, and we will be reminded of why this guy is the former pound for pound number 1. I don't know why he still isn't. He had an incredible reign at lightweight, and I think he is going to become that 2 division champ. And I'm going to say this now: if he does fight Ilya Topuria, I don't know what division it will be at. He may move back down, or even if Ilya moves up, I don't think it matters. I do think he will beat Ilya Topuria. Now, there is obviously that factor of the knockout power for Ilya, but I still think he will beat him. Ilya might have that one shot, and Islam's only losses come by a knockout. But I think it's an unstoppable force compared to an immovable object, and I think Islam will stay immovable and beat Ilya in that fight. Number 5, a lot of people may say that's a bit too high, but I think it's very just in my opinion, and he gets in to the top 5 of this list. Number 4, Anderson Silva. What a career this guy had, man. He was an absolutely incredible fighter, very humble fighter, humble enough to get knocked out by Chris Weidman in the way that he did, but before that, an absolutely incredible title run. No one could beat this guy. He could be losing. I think this is the thing about him. He could be losing fights and just knock him out straight away. Some incredible performances he managed to put on, and I think he's very deserving of being in the spot that he is at number 4. A lot of people move him down these days. A lot of people say he is in the middleweight GOAT compared to Israel Adesanya. I don't think that's the case. Were his wins that good? I think if you get as many title defenses as you do, I think it makes sense to credit the wins, because it just shows how dominating you are. Maybe if it was pound for pound and he was fighting in this era, I think he could take any middleweight. I do. I really, really do. And I think his spot at number 4 is very reasonable. I think no higher or no lower. That is the perfect spot for him, really. I don't think he was as good as the top 3, and I think he was definitely better than the likes of Islam and all the fighters we've seen below him so far. So it's number 4 for Anderson Silva, and he just misses out on that top 3. Now we get on to the top 3 of this list. You will be able to figure out already who the top 3 is. We have got George St. Pierre, Demetrius Johnson, and John Jones. Which order they are in, though, we'll have to find out. In at number 3, I have gone for John Jones. A lot of people, so many people, are going to say that is way too low for him. He should be number 1, number 2 even. Number 3, I'm very, very confident in this decision. This guy, don't get me wrong, very, very good fighter, lots of fighting IQ, an absolutely brutal fighter. Now, all of that is good. He had a lot of I think he has the most title defenses in UFC history. But can you call a fighter who was tested many times and failed tests many times. The best ever. Personally, I don't think so. I don't see how you can. I really don't. I'm not discrediting how good of a fighter he was, but it just doesn't make sense to put him in at number 3. And a lot of people will say you shouldn't include this factor, but the reality is he did duck Tom Aspinall, and if he was the true champion, he would have gone on and defended that title against Tom Aspinall if he really was the baddest man on the planet that he says he is. He was, if you go and look at his resume, I know people will disagree with that. A lot of people disagree with this pick overall. If you go and look at his resume, his fights that he picked out are very clever. Very clever when he picked them out, just because of the fact that they were fights he could definitely have gone on to win with, I think, other fighters, not just John Jones, if they were in his position with the title and the opportunities that he got and the kind of leniency that the UFC gave him. They could have beat them very easily. His resume looks better than it is. I mean, the proof is in the Stipe Miocic fight. Why the hell is he fighting Stipe Miocic, 42 years of age, in his first defense 18 months after he won the belt? The fact he's a 2-division champ. Okay, the Cyril Gane fight was a good performance, that can't be denied, but why has he gone on to defend against Stipe? Just because it looks good to the naked eye. A Stipe Miocic win on anyone's record is good, but once you look into it deeper, it's not that good of a win, especially at the time that it was. I think you have to look a bit deeper into these things. He might have been a 2-division champ, but what is that worth? I think he had some losses in his career. Gustafsson fight, people will say that's a loss. The Reyes fight, I think personally, the round, I think it was 2-2. Definitely, I think it was round 2 if I'm not mistaken. That could have gone either way, but if we're being honest, I think it is Reyes' round. There's many fights where, I mean, I know they say you have to beat the champion to be the champion, but I think there was many fights where he could have lost. And, with all those doping claims that he had and all the stuff that he's done, not the nicest guy either. I know we shouldn't factor that into it, but I just can't see him any higher than number 3. But he's number 3 based on his actual fighting IQ, his ability. I think that's a very reasonable position, and who knows, he could be much lower in this list. A lot of people are starting to discredit him, but still give him a lot of credit. Number 3 for John Jones. In at number 2, I'm going to reveal these guys at the same time. Who's it going to be at the GOAT spot, or who is it going to be at number 2? The final verdict is number 2, George St. Pierre, and number 1, I've gone for Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Now, a lot of people are going to say that one is controversial as well, very controversial. Top 3. I think I can understand where people come from, but I think you've got to listen to the reasoning before you go and get into that. I'll start with George first and why he's in at number 2. This guy is he was an incredible fighter. He's so much fighting IQ, so many incredible wins. He obviously avenged all his losses that he had, many title defenses. It's there's not much hard to argue against him, really. I mean, there was the doping claims. He never obviously officially got tested or kind of found guilty for the doping claims, but I don't think there's much to argue against him, really. I do think he is an incredible fighter. He did so many good things to one of the 2-division champions of the UFC, and that was actually a credible title run. Did he run from Robert Whittaker? Who knows, really. But I do think he had a very good career, an incredible fighter, and there's not much to argue, really, against him. But the reason he's not number 1 is because of that man you see there, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. This guy is so discredited and disrespected. He needs to be given his flowers. This guy, absolutely incredible fighter. 11 straight title defenses, if I'm not mistaken, and he only lost it via a split decision loss to one of the best flyweights and bantamweights of all time, a 2-division champion in Henry Cejudo, which arguably he won. The fact he got traded for Ben Askren, obviously it's not the fact that it's Ben Askren he got traded for, but the fact he got traded, what is that? We cannot take away what this guy did just because of he didn't sell many pay-per-views. People got bored of him because he was dominating so much. This guy was absolutely incredible, and he went to prove it as well in one because they didn't believe him enough in the UFC. You cannot take away how good this guy was. Pound for pound, best fighter ever. 11 title defenses. His competition may not have been that good, but in this era, it seems like all the arguments for fighters is that the competition was not good enough. It does not matter about the competition. If you defend 11 times, you are pretty good. Let's just put it that way. And it's not to say he didn't also have some very good wins in there as well. An absolutely incredible fighter, the pound for pound #1 fighter of all time, the most skilled fighter, 11 defenses. And he's a force of nature, a freak of nature at 125 pounds. And who knows, if you want to get on here, Mighty Gaming, what is it? It's Mighty on YouTube, Mighty Gaming. Do let me know, and I'll give you a Football Manager collab one day. Who knows? But that is it. #1, Demetrius Johnson, and that is my list. As you can see there, it's there in full. I think it's quite a reasonable list. Maybe a little bit of recency bias in there, but I think it's a very reasonable list. Hopefully it finds its way to MMA, the MMA community, because I will get absolutely slated for it. But I think it's a decent list. It is a bit of a different video today, and I hope you have enjoyed watching it. I am an MMA fan, and as I said at the start of the video, make sure to go and join the Discord where we are discussing it. In there, I got into MMA a few years ago now, quite a few years ago, and I thought I'd make this type of video whilst we're on the path of making a bit of alternate content, and hopefully you did enjoy it in what was a very, very interesting video. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll leave you with this little tune. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video on the channel. Thank you. Bye bye.